Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me today on this mini webinar. I will be talking about the common but important tax paperwork that you need to prepare for your tax preparer or your tax professional or your CPA before the beginning of tax season starts. So that way everything goes smooth for both you and your tax professional. I'm going to be going over the most common forms that people generally get. This won't be in a lot of detail because it's just a general overview. But before we get any further, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Denitza Rave, and I am the owner of Rave Financial Services, LLC. I have been a tax professional for the last 12 and a half years now. I also do credit counseling, student loan counseling, and financial coaching. But when I first got into the financial industry, I was in student loans. And then after that, I transitioned on my own and I opened up my own financial services business, starting with tax preparation. So again, this is just going to be a quick overview or reminder of the most important and most common tax forms that you're going to expect coming to you via mail or email, however you opted in with your employer or your mortgage company to receive your tax documentation. And you'll be able to expect these forms between the months of January, generally mid to the end of January, and the beginning of February. Okay. So if you need tax help, credit help, student loan help, financial coaching, we are only a phone call or an email away. At the end of the webinar, I will have all of our contact information on the last slide for you. Okay. And just one more note, this webinar does not constitute a client professional relationship. Okay. This is just for educational purposes only. What I talk about may not necessarily be what pertains to you and your situation. So always talk to your professional. Okay. So here we go. I'm going to go ahead and bring up my slides. Okay, so the first slide here that I have, it says W-2 wage and tax statement. Okay, everyone who works or who's ever had a job should be familiar with this form. It's sent out every year, usually by the end of January. That's when legally everyone is supposed to have your W-2. What you see on your wage and tax statement, your W-2, is basically the result of what you input on your W-9 or your W-4 in the very beginning of the year. Okay, so if you look here, it'll show you your wages and other compensation. So that's whatever you made for the year. It'll tell you how much income tax has been withheld for the year, and then it'll go into Social Security wages, Social Security taxes withheld. So this here is your entire picture of the year. Okay, here down and below, you're going to see your state information. So it'll have your state. This is, of course, just a copy of just a generic one. So it'll have your state. So if you're in California, like myself, it'll say California. It'll say your employer's state ID, which is like their identification number, what your state wages are, and how much you paid in state income tax. It will have your employer name, your employer identification number, your social security number. It might have the whole number, or it might have everything blacked out except for the last four, and your address. So this is something that you definitely may want to visit every year at the end of the year. Okay, going into the new year. That's what I generally advise my clients to do. So the next common but important form that you may receive is the 1099 INT, okay? What this is it is your statement that shows your interest income. This is blank. It doesn't have anything on it because I just uploaded this. So basically, you're going to receive this form if you received any interest in the amount of $10 or more from any source, okay? Since it's income, it has to be claimed. So even if it's only 10 bucks, it definitely has to be claimed on your tax return. You do not want to get an IRS audit for $10. Uh, so here it will show just like kind of like the W-2. It's all pretty general. Over here it shows your social security number, your information, any FATCA filing requirement, account number, and the amount of your interest income will be here. Now, if you had any early withdrawal penalty from any type of like retirement account or what have you, then that will show here. If you have savings bonds, that'll show here. If you had any federal income tax withheld, it'll show here. So this is, again, this is just a very brief explanation of what that is. So that's the 1099 INT, interest income. Now, here I have the 1099 DIV, which is distributions from pensions, annuities, retirement, or profit sharing plans like IRAs, insurance contracts, what have you. It will say and this will be from like whatever, this will be the IRS form that you're sent from any banks, financial institutions, investors who receive dividend payments or distributions for the calendar year. It's also income, so it's reportable. And I apologize because I just realized that it says 1099R. But basically, the 1099 DIV is basically the same thing as the INT. Okay, but the meaning is the same of what I said. It's an IRS form sent by banks, brokerage, and financial institutions for income that you receive, distributions. Okay. Now here we have the 1099 MIS or miscellaneous information form. Okay. This one is basically used to report any miscellaneous payments made for like rents or fishing boat revenues, crop insurance proceeds. If you have an MLM, then all that information would be here. So rents, royalties, other income. It'll have your federal income tax withheld and any other information, gross proceeds paid to an attorney. Okay, this is a very common form. If you were self-employed, this actually used to show from your employer, if you were an independent contractor, what your income was, but that has since changed. So here is the new form called the 1099 NEC, non-employee compensation form. Okay, well, it's really not new, but they call it new. It was actually around, I believe, in the 80s. What it is, it shows non-employment compensation. So, you know how I mentioned if you were an independent contractor, self-employed person, you showed your earnings on the 1099 MISC, miscellaneous information. Well, that's not that anymore. Now it's on the NEC. And I think they did that more for clarity. And if you look here, it is a little bit more clear. It'll have all the same information here, and then it'll have the calendar year. So this one is from 2022, non-employee compensation, $5,000, federal income tax withheld if you had any federal income tax withheld, and then your state information, okay? And that's a 1099 NEC. Okay, here is the 1099K. This is something that is for like payment cards and third-party network transactions with the new law and requirements that the IRS is instituting this year, where whoever gets, a certain amount of payments, $600 or more, whether you're a business or not, like pay from PayPal, Venmo, what have you, then you can expect to see a 1099K in your future. And if you sell like for online platforms, and if you use Stripe, then you would get one from that as well. Virtual currency. Okay, so this one here, there's really no specific form that they send you for virtual currency. And virtual currency is like, the Bitcoin, gaming tokens, NFTs, governance tokens, cryptocurrency. There's really no like 1099 that they send out that I've seen yet. But what you will do is when you get your statement from your brokerage or whoever, then you would just have your tax professional, or if you do your taxes on your own, you would have them report it on the IRS form 8949, which kind of feeds into the Schedule D. Okay. Donation charity records. So you definitely want to keep all of your donation charity records in case you're ever questioned by the IRS. I just put two little samples here. Like if you donated to the Goodwill, then this is typically what you will see. This here, this is just a generic charitable donation receipt. I know sometimes when I do donations to like my local thrift store, they basically just give me something like this with, a little with the information scribbled on it, nothing official looking, but I just wanted to give you a sample of what the different donation records would look like. Okay, this here, the 1095A, B, C forms. So this has been happening ever since the Healthcare Act that came about several years ago under the Obama administration. So a 1095A, if you receive that, that is from what's called the marketplace. In California, if you buy your own insurance, we have a marketplace where you can purchase that from. And I'm sure other states have that as well. But this is what it looks like right here. Health insurance marketplace statement. It'll have the year, and it has all of your plan information, all of your coverage dependents. Here is your 1095B health coverage. So this basically provides information about individuals in your tax family. So yourself, your spouse, any dependents that you have who have specific healthcare coverage. And then finally, the last one is the 1095C. And that is actually given by your employer. We should all be pretty much familiar with these three forms by now. And there's really nothing remarkable for the 1095C other than it just shows the amounts paid. Okay, so this one here, 1098T, a lot of people forget to include this with their tax returns if they have a college student. You definitely want to make sure you have this filled out, or not filled out, but you have it from your school filled out, and you give it to your tax preparer or your CPA, whoever you're using. Okay, so it's basically a record that your college or school uses to report qualified, right here, qualified tuition and related expenses, okay, sent to you and the IRS. You and or your parent, depending, may be able to claim these expenses as educational tax credits, okay? Now, keep in mind your 1098T may not have all of the payments that you made throughout the year, okay? So I also highly recommend you save any of your credit card receipts, receipts if you paid cash for books, what have you, definitely save that. Okay, so that way you can provide proof of those expenses with your tuition statement. So this here is the mortgage interest statement, okay, Form 1098. This here is sent to you every year if you're a homeowner. Okay, it shows the amounts paid by the interest paid by a borrower of $600 or more. And the lenders do send this to the IRS, and they also send it to you. So this is also, especially if you itemize, you definitely want to make sure that you have this in your arsenal of tax paperwork. Okay, well, that's it. Thank you so much for watching this video. I appreciate you. Feel free to talk to us. Here is my phone number, 951-797-4071. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, feel free to reach out by email, which is here, info@ravefinancialservices.com. And stay tuned for more webinars like this. I will be putting out a plethora more of really good information that will benefit you now and in the future. Thank you so much, and you all have a wonderful night.